Welcome, everyone, to That Kind of Nerds Podcast, a weekly show that tells you what is going on in the nerdy world. I'm CJ Mellon, joined by Josh Burns and Brian Thornton.
Yep.
What up?
And Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry Holiday to you all, even though it's already passed.
It would have just passed. Happy Life Day, everyone.
Happy Return Day. Happy Day of Retail Returns. So listen, because it is the end of December and we're going to go into January, Brian is reading the tea leaves and just kind of looking around to see what's coming out in the movie theaters for the month of January, and he put together the Blockbuster.
You really stretched for that analogy.
It was more like, what pile of shit can I put on paper for January?
Yeah.
Brian hastily put together.
There's not a good list.
Not even hastily. It's just what's available.
Here's
it's
the other
what's
thing,
out there.
Here's the other thing, too. I was trying to find...
It's a sad commentary when Paddington 2 is among the better things in this list.
I was trying to find some of the movies that we had put on our December Blockbuster for screenings, like Molly's Game and I, Tonya. But
yeah, they don't have nationwide releases.
They had a nationwide release till January. So some of those movies are coming out in January, but they're not on the list.
Sneaking in to get nominated.
Just trying to get those Oscars. So we're going to start with January 5th, Insidious, The Last Key. A horror movie?
This one was snuck in for Oscars.
Hard pass.
Why is there a horror movie in January? That makes no sense to me.
Because everyone is scared of the new year and what that may bring.
All right, touche, I'll take that. January 12th. Wow, January 12th. January 12th, we have The Post, hence the reason for my slip up. This has a huge cast like Bob Odenkirk, Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep. This has a huge list. I'm gonna see it just because I want to see those actors, but I know it's gonna be crap. Like it's not gonna be good.
Why do you think it's gonna be crap?
Gonna have Sarah Tostin in it.
It feels like it was rushed. I don't know. Just something about this just doesn't seem right.
You were rushed, sir.
I was rushed. And
he's only going to see it because Bradley Whitford. That's all.
It's so true. Bradley. You know what though? Bradley Whitford trying to defend a paper from publishing stuff. That's not the Bradley Whitford way.
How many roles they gonna cast Jesse Plemons in? Is what I want to know. This dude is everywhere.
Everywhere. What are you guys going to see this movie? Is this a movie that's on your?
Oh, not in the theater.
No.
All right.
This is something I'll check out on the Blu-ray
when it hits like $4 because Tom Hanks.
The next one I had never heard of before until Brian put it on the list, and that's Proud Mary. It's another one of those like Atomic Blonde movies, right? Another femme fatale hitman movie.
I love femme fatale
the
flicks.
revenge movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not doing anything for me.
Oh, I'm not going to see this one. No, I saw the trailer.
Then we have we had a train left over and a couple of the Taken scripts. They had some drafts, and then we put Liam Neeson on the train and said, "Don't be as good as Taken, and let's call it The Commuter." No, hard pass on this movie.
Isn't this what's the one he did in a plane? It's just that on a train, right?
Right.
Oh
yes.
yeah, he did that one on a plane.
Non-stop.
Planes and
Non-stop.
trains.
This is just.
I hear he does it in foxes.
On boxes.
On boxes.
Not in foxes, with foxes.
Oh, with foxes in boxes.
Oh my God, he's actually doing this in order. We've got planes, we've got trains, next is automobiles. That's all we need. And Liam Neeson.
No,
I think this is his.
He did automobiles.
No, but I'm exclusively in a car for the next movie.
Like
exclusively cars.
Like that Tom Hardy movie,
like
that
Speed.
Ethan Hawke movie, the Getaway.
Yes. Anyway,
that was a terrible movie.
Anyway,
why would you wish that Liam
Neeson? Then
it's a national treasure.
On January 12th, we have Paddington 2. Which
it's actually the best movie of that group.
I didn't see Paddington 1.
No, nor did I. I'm just saying it's got to be the best movie.
Does this one have Channing Tatum in it? Maybe I'll go see it.
No, it doesn't.
Well, then I'm not interested.
Then on January 19th, Den of Thieves.
Oh, this actually looks good.
I have no desire to see this whatsoever.
Oh, I didn't say I'd see it in the theater. I said it actually looks
50
good.
Cent, Gerard Butler.
Nope.
This
isn't even. I'll be shocked if this makes it to the
Yeah, this is a new. Sorry, not even with Movie Pass will I see this.
This is bound to go direct to DVD. Although Pablo Schreiber, I do like a lot.
It's got Ice Cube's son in it too.
But
what's his name?
Some O'Shea Jackson Jr.
Yeah, O'Shea Jackson Jr. is in this movie.
I was right. Yeah. So Pablo Schreiber does not improve Gerard Butler for me. Like when Gerard Butler gets top billing, not lately.
Oh, Gerard Butler's your reservation.
Well, yeah.
I mean, Gerard Butler is good in those roles.
Well, to be fair though,
I just don't believe him as a scientist.
He's riding the storm of Geostorm right now. So
Yeah, but that's because no one believes him as a scientist. I believe him as a dirty cop.
I don't know, man. He has just had a few really bad movies.
He is.
You bite your tongue. Gods of Egypt was the best movie of 2017.
Then rounding out the month of January, the 26th, this is a movie I did not think was actually going to come around, which was Maze Runner: The Death Cure. The reason I didn't say this, the lead actor was actually hurt on a stunt during the production of the last movie, like broke his legs or something like that, and they shut down production, and they pretty much said, hey.
I thought it was the production of this movie.
I guess you're right. Yes. Said, hey, we're not going to do this. Sorry, it's too big of a liability. But yet, here we are.
I mean, I enjoy the first two Maze Runners. I actually will probably see this in the theater.
I like Maze Runner as well. I don't know about the theater, but yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see it at some point.
I mean, it's the only thing that's coming out this month that I really care about. So if I go to the movies once a month,
it's good time to catch up on other things you need to watch.
Which leads, look at that segue right there, Mr. Burns. Which leads us to our conversation about the world of TV and movies that we like to call Screen to Screen. So here is what we've done. We are looking a little bit at 2017 in review and giving you some feedback as to our favorite movies and our favorite TV shows. I also reached out to you, the fans, and you guys supplied your own feedback as well, so I definitely want to bring that up. But I want to start with your top 5 movies for 2017, and I agonized over this list, so I'm very curious to hear what you guys picked. So I'd like to start with Brian. All right, we're going to do this round robin style. So, Brian, I'd like to hear your number 5. Josh, you're second on, and then I'll be the last one.
Okay, my number 5 movie we're doing, right? Movie?
That's correct, movie.
My number 5 movie of 2017 was Dunkirk.
Ooh.
I don't know if you saw this, right?
I did see this.
Do I have to give a reason as to why I liked it, or can I just say it?
It was perfectly fine. It was good.
Okay. On your list.
I'm just making sure I don't have to defend it. I just want to make sure.
My number 5 was War for the Planet of the Apes.
That was a good one. I considered that. Really did.
My number 5 is actually a newer release. It is Darkest Hour.
Oh, you saw that?
I did. I saw it. It was very good. I think Gary Oldman should finally get his goddamn Oscar. He did such an amazing job. And
are we reviewing these movies as well?
No, but it's a perfect way to segue into Dunkirk. You should watch Darkest Hour and then go watch Dunkirk. Your mind will be very happy knowing all the context, everything.
Word.
Brian, number 4.
Number 4, I had the remake of It. I was very, very impressed with this movie, especially since I'm not a huge horror movie fan, and it just kind of caught me by surprise. So that's why it made my top 5.
I have for number 4, Atomic Blonde.
I wanted to see that. I never saw
Also considered doing it.
Loved it.
Also considered putting that on my list, but the others I felt were better.
My number 4 will be nowhere near Josh Burns' list whatsoever. It is Wonder Woman.
No, it didn't even make my honorable mentions.
I figured it wouldn't even be.
I didn't even know we were doing honorable mentions.
We're not. I'm just saying. I listed all the movies I saw.
Don't change the game on me, Josh.
No. I listed all the movies I saw, and then I immediately deleted Wonder Woman and Justice League because they were both garbage.
Are we on my number 3? My number 3 is actually a DC movie. It's Lego Batman.
Oh, that's good.
It was so enjoyable.
Nice. My number 3 is John Wick Chapter 2.
Ooh. My number 3 is Logan.
I really thought about putting Logan on here.
Honorable.
I really did.
Honorable mentions list.
Honorable mentions for me, too.
Number 2.
Number 2. Oh, with this voice, I could do that. Number 2. All right. My number 2 is Baby Driver.
My number 2 is Baby Driver.
Nice.
My number 2 is Happy Death Day.
I wanted to see that.
That was a really good movie. Highly recommend it. Your number 1 pick, Mr. Brian Thornton, your number 1.
No one should be surprised by this. My number 1 pick was Spider-Man Homecoming.
It made the honorable mention list. My number 1 movie of 2017 is American Assassin.
Ooh. My number 1 pick was your number 2 pick, Baby Driver. I absolutely love that movie. It deserves number 1.
Yeah, and I loved American Assassin so much.
I need to see that.
I've watched it more times than I've watched Baby Driver. It's at least 7 times in the last.
Wow.
It's come out 2 months on iTunes.
Yeah,
I believe so.
It's a lot. It's like I watch it once a week at this point.
So I throwed the top 5 question out to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We got a couple of replies I want to shoot back real quick. The one we got on Instagram, this said in no particular order, was Wonder Woman, Get Out, Logan, and Murder on the Orient Express. Couldn't think of a 5th one, so they just went with the 4, which is I think we can find a fifth movie, but that's fine. I reached out on Twitter, and I got this reply here from Christine. She said, again, in no particular order, Lady Bird, Thor Ragnarok, which wasn't on any of one's list here, which I thought was interesting. The Big Sick, which I really wanted to see, Baby Driver, and Landline.
I really was trying to avoid making all 5 of my movies superhero movies.
I was doing the same thing.
They were all my honorable mentions were superhero or Star Wars.
I literally had to say to myself, all right, Brian, you are allowed 2 superhero movies out of the 5, that is it.
That's what I said too.
So what are the best superhero movies out of all of them that came out?
I didn't think there were any superhero movies that were as good as the 5 I put on my list. None of them.
So now I want to go ahead and shift the focus over to television. So I want to start with your top 5 TV shows of 2017. And for the TV segment, I'm not just going to put us in a box of only in 2017. So if there's old shows in there, we're totally allowing that. Or second or third seasons, perfectly acceptable. So Brian, start us off.
My number 5 is actually wrapping its 2nd season currently this year. It's The Good Place, starring Kristen Bell and Ted Danson. And it's fantastic, and it's funny, and it's actually kind of like surprising, and got some little twists and turns in it. I highly recommend everybody watch this, not just because I'm in love with Kristen Bell, but because it is a really great show.
Number 5, Game of Thrones.
For me, my number 5 is a new show, Future Man, on Hulu. Just dropped a few weeks ago.
Is that the one with Josh Hutcherson?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'm not watching that.
It was good. I'm enjoying it. All right, number 4.
Number 4. I actually am surprised at how much I enjoyed this show. That's why I made it up to the top 5. Big Mouth on Netflix.
Right on.
Yeah. I will not explain what it's about. Just watch it.
I did not like that show.
You know, it's one of those things that like I wasn't really liking it up until about episode 3 or 4.
Yeah,
and then I freaking loved it.
I did the same thing. I couldn't get into it. I tried.
My number 4 was Big Mouth on Netflix.
Josh, you and me, we're right there.
I think. Well, didn't I recommend Big Mouth to you?
Yes, you did.
I feel good. I feel strong like bull.
My number 4 was Stranger Things, season 2.
Now I'm feeling like a shitheel for not having Stranger Things on my list.
I don't have it on my list.
That's all right. All right, Brian, number 3.
My number 3 is The Punisher, which we just watched a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Punisher made it. It was very close. It got edged out by Game of Thrones. My number 3 is Ray Donovan.
Oh,
I've never seen that show.
Oh, it's so good.
That's got Liev Schreiber in it, right?
It has Liev Schreiber. It has John Voight. It's got a bunch of faces that you already know. And if you have Showtime, you really need to consider watching because it's worth it. It's a great story, and it's a very human story.
Yeah, it was on my list and then just kind of fell off, but it's definitely something I'm going to pick up for 2018. It's on my list to watch.
Yeah, instead he decided to watch Future Man.
My number 3 was Glow on Netflix.
Yeah, I wanted to see this. I like Allison Brie a lot.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Roller skating. That's the roller skating.
It's
the female wrestling.
Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling.
Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. Okay.
Yep.
I do like Allison Brie very much.
I like Allison Brie. I like Mark. Got Mark Maron. He's hilarious too. So I was on board for it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. Number 2.
My number 2 show has quickly become one of my favorite shows I look forward to watching every week. It's Lethal Weapon. It's currently in its 2nd season.
Yeah,
that's in my honorable mentions.
My number 2
so good.
Is Silicon Valley.
My number 2 was Doctor Who. I really enjoyed this season.
False.
Yeah, no one cares.
And
Number
the Christmas
1?
special happened, but we didn't get there. Number 1.
I don't know why this is a surprise. I still love The Flash. It's still my favorite show on television right now. I look forward to watching it every week. And if we're talking about the 2017 season, this was the last season with Savitar, and the season that it's currently in is freaking amazing. So yeah, just watch it, please.
I agree. The Flash is amazing. There's only one show, however, that I DVR and watch every single week, and that's Lethal Weapon. Number 1.
All right.
My number 1 was The Crown on Netflix, and I enjoyed it immensely. The problem I had with this list is I don't have cable anymore, so like I am so out of the zeitgeist of like what's happening on TV.
You came up with the ideas for the list.
I know,
but The Crown, huh?
Yes.
Do you and my wife cycle together?
Now, you know what? It's funny you brought up your wife here, Josh, because I put I put the question out to Facebook, and your wife replied with her top 4 for this year, and
she couldn't think of a fifth either.
I don't know. She couldn't get a fifth either.
Josh, go get your wife. Get her a fifth.
For number 4, she put in Game of Thrones. For number 3, she also put in The Crown. Number 2 was Stranger Things, but her number 1 show for this year was Narcos.
She fucking loves Narcos. I don't even understand. Like, what? It's uncanny.
That's because they're speaking Spanish, Josh.
She's just,
you have to read it.
But I've never seen Laura not have her phone in front of her face while watching television. So I don't understand how she loves Narcos so much. I don't get it.
She is all about it.
Apparently. And she's talking to me about it. I'm like, I'm never going to watch it. I'm never going to watch it. I can't focus on anything for that long. That's crazy.
That's the only problem is I have to wait till both my kids are asleep so I can read Narcos, because you don't watch it, you read it.
Like, even in a hotel, I can't focus on it for that long. It's just, I can't do it.
But listen, this is not a one-way conversation. We definitely want to hear from you. What are your favorite movies of 2017 and your favorite television shows? You can tweet us at That Kind of Nerd or find us on Facebook, facebook.com/That Kind of Nerd. So please go ahead and tell us what your top 5 are. We will definitely read them on the next episode. So this next part here is a little bit of some follow-up that we had talked about. We talked about that Amazon was pitching rebooting or redoing the Lord of the Rings series. And to kind of make the nerd kind of happy, Ian McKellen is throwing his hat into the ring to play Gandalf again in this TV reboot. He's asking, can I do this? Yes, right?
Let me get in there and play Gandalf and make a shit ton of money very quickly in a series that I won't have to work on for very long.
It's very true.
Right? He'll be able to set his own terms, film when he wants to film.
Yep.
Probably won't have to film on location. They'll be able to create sets around him, things like that. Plus, we've already established the location is basically only going to be Studio B and like very small outdoor shots. It's not going to be a ton of work.
It's probably just him sitting in a chair and they're like, we'll CGI you.
It's going to just be a ton of money for him, and then the show's going to get canceled after, 1 season. So who cares?
Brian, what do you think about Ian McKellen saying, yes, I would like to play Gandalf?
He is Gandalf. Why?
He is Gandalf. I don't understand. He doesn't have to ask. That's what he is.
Right. Him saying it'd be like saying, I'm Batman.
Or like Aaron Paul
for Michael Keaton. Or Aaron Paul is Ghost Rider. It's the same thing.
This is really more like saying, hey, can I be Brian Thornton for a day?
Right.
I'd really love
like
it
to
if I could be Brian.
Now, Brian, you and I like to listen to the podcast Hollywood Babylon.
Why are you bringing up another podcast?
Because they have because first off, it's a great show. Secondly,
it is.
They have a wonderful segment that I'm going to steal for just a quick moment, and it's called No Thanks, We Already Got One.
This is great. Can't wait for the lawsuit on this.
How many Grinch movies does this world need?
We need this one. We need this one. We need this shit. You're out of your goddamn mind.
I didn't know this, and for those of you who are playing the home game, Illumination Studios is making The Grinch.
Listen, I actually had to position my mic upward and lean the fuck in because I've been pissed off about this since she posted it on Facebook. The original How the Grinch Stole Christmas was made in 1966, voiced by Boris Karloff. It just has not aged well. My kids, although they watch it every year because, we show it to them, it doesn't mean they love it or identify with it in any way. I do, right, because I grew up on it. Laura does. More importantly, and the story behind it, if you'll allow it, yeah?
Absolutely.
All right, the story behind it is this. When I was a senior in high school, I was in this creative writing class. And we made a paper mache set of. We're going to put on a show for some special ed kids that were going to come in, and we were going to do a little play for them, right? So we had to choose what we wanted to do. We chose How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and we made these paper mache puppets, and it was going to be a puppet show, and we were going to voice it.
Oh, that's cool.
I thought it was cool, and I was the Boris Karloff voice. Right. More importantly, the voice of the Grinch. Right. So the deep booming and that's not my voice, but that's what I was doing my senior year of high school. More importantly, there was a young lady playing Cindy Lou Who that I married.
Ooh.
So this was, it's actually it's a pretty big deal for us. And Laura's initial reaction was no, because it's sentimental value, and I get that. But I'd much rather have a new generation of children connect to this story than preserve some antiquated thing that is sentimental only to older generations. I look, have you, like, other than...
Well, it's just like the Rudolph movies and the Year Without a Santa Claus. I hate those things. I never watch
Sure, I don't like them either. I don't like the claymation stuff and the Island of Misfit Toys. I can't get down with that, but I connect very, very deeply with How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So this is absolutely necessary, and everybody loves the Despicable Me movies. They love what Illumination does. So, like, what's the big fucking deal is, I guess, what I'm asking.
And with Benedict Cumberbatch as the voice of the Grinch, I don't see why.
You got Benedict Cumberbatch as the voice of the Grinch. Give me it all day long.
I just sent you the IMDb link. It's in his IMDb. He's doing it.
Yep. Is he the only person cast at this point? Yes, he's the only cast member listed. And as far as I'm concerned, that's all I need.
Well, I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch can do like any voice, so yeah, I don't believe. Listen, and if I'm in the minority with this, perfectly fine. Not also a rarity for me to be in the minority of this opinion, but okay, Benedict Cumberbatch, I can get down for that. I just not a big fan of Illumination, but whatever. To each his own.
How are you not a big fan of Illumination?
Yes, you are. You just didn't like the last two things. I
hated. I didn't like the Minion. I didn't like Despicable Me 2. I didn't like Despicable Me 3. And I can't think of any. And I didn't like the Lorax.
You didn't like Despicable Me 2?
I didn't like Despicable Me 2.
There's something wrong with you.
Didn't like the Lorax either.
You didn't. Shut up.
Didn't like it.
Shut up. Closing thought on the Grinch animated whatever. If neither of you have heard the Darius Rucker, You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, I'm praying that Darius Rucker does the music for this animated movie, because his revised rendition of the original song is spectacular.
I'll put it on my playlist and I'll listen to it.
Please do, because it's really good. And if I didn't say it, it wouldn't be captured for posterity.
All right, well then let's get a little palate cleanser. Let's take a look at the world of comics, how it's affecting TV, how it's affecting movies, but most of all, how it's affecting Brian. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Cape Talk.
Cape Talk.
So reaching out again on Facebook, I posed an age-old question. I want to hear your opinion on this, guys, because this got heated really quickly in our comments of Marvel versus DC. And I'm going to start this off with, I got a lot of questions going, okay, what's like DC Comics versus Marvel, like comics? Are we talking the movies? Are like what are we talking about? I said umbrella, just the whole thing. Which one are you more loyal to? Or which one's
except you posted a picture of Chris Evans as Captain America and the animated DC Batman.
Yeah, animated DC Batman's.
So it's not at all clear what you meant.
Oh, in the comments, we got into it. So there was over 40 votes for this. Like 300 people were looking at the post itself, and the comments got pretty heated. The result came down to this. And I'll give you the numbers, then I'll give you the conversation. But 78% of our fans said Marvel, 22% said
because
DC.
They were considering the MC.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm going to get to. The reason it broke down this way was they said, listen, Batman over everybody. Like, Batman always wins.
I voted DC.
Always play Batman. When it comes to the movies, it's Marvel. They enjoy the Marvel movies more than DC movies. Right. But when it comes to the comics, that's where it was pretty split. Most people leaning towards DC, but there was a lot of people going, Marvel's got this, and their catalog of characters is better, but DC is just doing a better job with that.
What did Brian Roman's girlfriend say about your non-specific bullshit survey?
I didn't get any feedback from her. So that's what I want to know. It's a little bit about this conversation and how can we ask this question better, or what can we do to kind of help with everyone understanding these two factions?
There's no good way to ask this question, because if you're trying to say overall, there are certain things that each company does better than the other.
Right.
If you're talking about comic books, there are certain decades that one company is better than the other. If like recently, DC Comics has been better, but 10 years ago, in 2000 to 2010, Marvel was doing a lot of really good shit. In the 90s, it was, early 90s, it was more DC. Late 90s was more Marvel. Like, you can't, there's no good way. This is a constant pendulum going back and forth.
Absolutely.
Of who is better than who. All right. They both have an amazing character. Excuse me. They both have an amazing cast of characters. They both have a ton of different backstories. It really depends on how you as a person identifies with those characters. I identify with Spider-Man. That's why he's my favorite character. So I'm probably going to push Marvel more than DC. I love Batman. Love him. Think he's fantastic. But you can't make me choose an entire publishing company or an entire conglomerate. If you're talking about the movies, hands down, Marvel does better movies. They've proven it time and time again.
But DC doing much better television.
If you're talking about animated, DC has the corner on animated movies, and all their animated movies are fantastic. All their animated shows are usually better than what Marvel puts out. Their television is better than what Marvel puts out, unless you're talking about Netflix. Well, then Marvel obviously does it better, not just because it's Netflix. I mean, if I were to compare Daredevil season 1 with Flash season 1, I'd probably pick Daredevil as much as I love the Flash. This is not a good question. You've started a very terrible war inside of me, and I refuse to talk about it anymore.
It's a flawed survey question for sure.
But that's fine. The discussion was more interesting to me than the actual poll results. The discussion is what I got the most value from, and just having those two gifts and having people vote on them.
Don't give me this bullshit of the gift was inside us all along bullshit that you're about to feed me. Okay,
well, I'm just saying. What are you talking about?
No. You posed a question. There has to be a definitive answer to that question.
There does not.
And the shitty way that
there
you
just
posed
needs to
question,
be a discussion.
No, that's not that. No. Josh?
No, it's not. There's far too broad a question was asked. Okay. Do you prefer cooking or eating? It's not like they're two things that kind of go hand in hand, and you really actually need one to have the other, but you can't pit them against each other because it doesn't make sense, is where I'm at.
Anyway, I refuse to vote.
And that's fine. There were other people that refused to vote on that. And
I voted DC specifically because your fucking poll was skewed towards Marvel.
How is the poll skewed towards Marvel?
Chris Evans versus animated Batman is skewed towards Marvel 100%.
I'm going to.
No,
you can rebut that, but it's for most of the people on Facebook. That's the way they're going to look at it.
I'm going to have to rebut that because if you are talking about animated Batman, we're talking about Kevin Conroy, and he is Batman.
That's great.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
He is everything.
He never made the money that Chris Evans made.
Who cares about the money? We're talking about the representation of the character.
People that are going to vote on this, they're endeared to the Marvel movie universe, not necessarily the Batman animated series. That's a small.
Brian,
no.
animated series has a huge following.
Everybody, no. Regardless of whether you were a comic book fan or not, everybody my age and CJ's age grew up with that show.
Yeah,
I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
Josh, it came out in 93, 94. You were well past the age of the target audience watching Saturday morning cartoons.
And that's true. I was playing football. I never saw it.
So here's the promise I'll make then. I'll stay away from these skewing polls if we can maybe set up a way to have a good discussion about these two entities and seeing how we can all coexist as nerds. All right, so next part coming in with Cape Talk comes from a fan question. So DeMarc left a comment on our Facebook asking some questions about the Disney acquisition of Fox, particularly about how we're going to go ahead and maybe integrate X-Men and the Fantastic Four into the MCU. Just kind of how to go about that. Is it something that we build into, do we retcon it into phases 2 and 3, or do we just build a new phase going on to 4? How do you guys think that they're going to put these two properties together in the MCU?
In a way that is needed to be redone at least once.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I don't understand what that means.
I think they're going to screw it up the first time and then have to figure it all out a few years later.
I don't think Marvel's going to screw anything up.
Didn't say Marvel was.
Well,
I think someone's going to screw something up.
It's already been screwed up. Have you seen X-Men 3 The Last Stand?
Or Fan Four Stick?
I'm with you. And that argument right there, we've had 3 Fantastic Four movies since, 2000, Brian?
3 Fantastic Four movies, since 2000, 2002, 2004.
Okay, we've had one animated How the Grinch Stole Christmas since 1966. That's all I'm saying, CJ. There's my argument. But I don't think... here's my hope. My hope is that they don't try to fold it and cram it all together quickly. I hope They spread it out over. There's a lot of stuff here. You could do this over 10 years.
So here's the question that DeMarc posed too, and it kind of involves Spider-Man. The way that they put Spider-Man into the MCU is being like, hey, remember that time in Iron Man, I think it was 2, that, Tony saved this little kid wearing an Iron Man mask? That was Peter Parker. He's been here the whole time. And we're just like, all right, well, New York's while it's a big city, you're kind of relatively small. You think you would have bumped into the Fantastic Four by now. How do you then put in a prominent, superhero group into the MCU? Brian, what do you think they're going to do, or what is your hope, at least, for integrating?
They've been trapped in the negative zone for years, several years.
All right. So they're coming out as the first time for the Fantastic Four back into reality, or our reality. That's
how I would do it if it were me. I mean, listen, I am not a writer by any means. I do not get paid several hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this. They do. They've done a great job. I trust whatever they're going to do with it. But I mean, that's how I would introduce the Fantastic Four in it. I think they can just pretty much move on and talk about, just shoehorn the X-Men in, kind of like they shoehorn Spider-Man in. I think they can do it and have it make sense.
Kind of mutants in hiding kind of thing, not really.
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way. I mean, if you're being pursued and hunted, you're not going to go around announcing yourself just yet. And if the X-Men maybe in the Marvel universe have not been formed just yet,
I'd say very easy to tuck away a school, forget the kids in the hills, and just.
Well, here's the big thing, and in the comic book for years, Professor X had pretty much mind manipulated the entire government into not knowing that this place existed. So why can't we just do that in this
That'll
universe?
Be cool. Yeah, I'd be down for that.
He's, telepathic who just made everybody who saw this school or who saw evidence of mutants forget.
So, DeMarc, really, to answer your question, I kind of lean here on Josh. I really hope that it's about taking your time with this, right? This merger is going to take 18 months to actually finalize and get the ink to dry on it. So let's hope that during that time we're investing the resources into thinking of how to do this so we don't have a timeline like the Terminator or X-Men.
They already are.
Right.
Let's face it. This Avengers movie and the Avengers movie following it is going to be the end of the Marvel Universe, cinematic universe, as we know it. Things are going to be very different. Kevin Feige has already said that going forward. And as far as that differences go, maybe, you don't have an Iron Man or a Captain America anymore, but maybe we can have a Fantastic Four and an X-Men and integrate some other characters, a completely new team of Guardians of the Galaxy into this. Like, it could go anywhere, and Feige's the one to do it. In Feige we trust. That's all I need.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for That Kind of Nerd to give you our thoughts on Star Wars The Last Jedi. So, if you haven't seen the movie, this is officially where you can go ahead and pause it, go to the theater, go watch it, and come on back. And then we can finish being or walk around your neighborhood or your drive to work. If you are not prepared for spoilers, you better turn off right now because it is time for us to talk about Star Wars The Last Jedi. So I want to quickly just get some just broad strokes thoughts on the movie itself. Just kind of your first opinion on it. Brian, let's start with you.
First opinion overall, I mean, I liked it. I don't think it's without its flaws. I think there's definitely some stuff that could have been done differently or better, but I mean, I highly enjoyed it. I'm still not sure if I like it better than Force Awakens, but I mean, I thought it was definitely worth the watch, and I'll probably go see it again just to kind of cement what I think of it in the hierarchy of Star Wars movies. Most certainly better than all the prequels.
I really enjoyed it. Again, I agree there are some faults with it. Some of them I'm willing to forgive, and some of them I'm hoping that the next movie will fix. I think I had, in my opinion, the winning strategy of staying away from all marketing, trailers, reviews. I mean, total blackout on it, and just coming into it fresh was really good. And I think the fact that I wasn't trying to solve any of the, fan theories or trying to think of how I would want this Star Wars movie to play out, I think really helped me in just being open to what this movie was doing. So I was willing to take a little more of the twists and the turns and to take some of that and be fine. So I really enjoyed it. In my opinion, Brian, though, I do think this is better than The Force Awakens.
I mean, I think before we get to Josh, I'm sorry, Josh. But I think that's why everybody seems to have such a huge problem with this movie, is because everybody had their fan theories from Force Awakens that they didn't get the answer that they wanted. And that's why everybody seems to be really upset with it. I didn't really buy into that. I mean, I always, I tried to think, wouldn't it be cool if they did this? But I went into it thinking, whatever they do, they do. And, I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it because it's Star Wars, Go ahead, Josh.
Josh, I know that you and Christian saw this movie together after like the best 48 hours of father-son bonding in the history of the world. So I definitely need to hear a little bit about how that experience was for you and for Christian.
Well, he absolutely loved it. Loved it. We didn't compare and contrast or do any of that stuff. Or, I think a lot like me, he goes into a movie just wanting to experience it and see what it's about. And that's I went in wanting to just experience this movie, see what it was all about. And man, I loved it. I liked it more than The Force Awakens. I wasn't looking to solve fan theories. I don't care about fan theories. I really like the way the story played out. And if you think about the people are from what I gather, one of the big unsolved questions, and Brian, keep me honest, but it's this connection between, there's supposed to be a connection between Kylo Ren and Rey. Right?
Unsolved from this movie.
Unsolved. Sure. But
yeah.
Him saying she came from nothing. Maybe she did. Maybe she did come from nothing. Who else came from nothing?
Luke Skywalker?
No, not Luke Skywalker.
Anakin, literally physically, not from
Anakin Skywalker. From nothing. Came from nothing.
Right.
Yeah, he doesn't have a daddy.
Right.
So I really like that when Kylo Ren gave that speech, and I don't know whether to call him Kylo Ren or Ben Solo at this point, but
I call him Kylo.
When he gave that speech, I went, wow, that's actually really cool, right? She came from nothing.
Right.
The last person we know that came from nothing was Anakin Skywalker, and now I'm more into the story. So for me, it was awesome, and it was almost full circle, and even tied me more to the original story, which I liked very much. So I have absolutely no problem with anything that happened, especially because I went in to experience it. We're gonna go see it again Saturday, tomorrow is.
I heard second viewings get you absorb a little more and you actually appreciate a little better after a second watching.
If I like it more after the second watching, that's fantastic. I did like it more than The Force Awakens. Not a ton more, but more.
For me,
here's what I like about that moment before CJ says what he's going to say. I'm sorry, I'm just talking over people.
Go for it.
Here's what I like about that moment that that you're talking about. The fact that Rey's parents comes from nothing. And I think that's really going back to the fact that people were making all these fan theories of what her parentage was.
To be fair, The Force Awakens was building that up.
Right.
It's not unfounded. I understand.
I get it. But I think
it was building up suspense. It wasn't necessarily building up anything else.
I agree.
Here's what I feel is most important about that moment. And yes, the last person to come from nothing was Anakin. But when you watch the original Star Wars trilogy, episode 4, 5, and 6, the Force and the Jedi was something that was accessible to everybody.
Yes.
As long as you believed it, you could be a Jedi, and it made it accessible to everybody who was watching that movie. And then when the Phantom Menace came out, and they talked about midichlorians and you had to be chosen.
That wasn't exclusive to the Phantom Menace. That was in the universe long before the Phantom Menace.
Regardless,
that was
it wasn't
part of
in
the
the
Star
original
Wars
trilogy.
universe a long, long time ago.
But it wasn't in the original trilogy, is my point.
But they didn't discuss selection in the original trilogy. There was no discussion.
Right, that's the point.
That's my point.
Yes.
My point is that as a viewer of that original trilogy, you could be a Jedi. It didn't matter where you came from or what you were doing.
But as a viewer of the original trilogy, the Jedi were dead. The Jedi were no more, right? So when you went to the prequels, there had to be discussion about selection.
Let me just finish my thought real quick. My point is that in the prequels, it very much cemented the fact that not everybody could be a Jedi. It was very much like you were chosen, you were selected by whatever means or process or whatever it was. And it really made it become finite. And you had to be special. What's wrong with that is that as a viewer, like you feel
You want
like
the hope that you could be
you
one.
want the hope that
You want a
could be Luke
fucking
Skywalker.
participation trophy?
Absolutely.
You both want a participation trophy.
No, but
Is
you
what
want the feeling that you
You
could
want
be
everybody to feel like they're a beautiful snowflake.
No, it's no.
That's
come
what you're
on.
saying.
That's
That's what
not
you're saying.
I'm saying at all.
If I
No.
believe
All right.
I'm a Jedi, I'm a Jedi.
Let me do this. What I liked about this movie and talking about Rey's parentage is not necessarily being special or that is this. This is a very big universe that we're in. Literally, physically, a lot of people, a lot of space encompassed in it. But in these last movies, we have only been focused on one family. We've been focused on the Skywalker family. And it's nice to see that now we can actually go to the wide universe that we live in, that there are other people out there, and that you're going out, and that there's the possibility for more people to be sensitive to the Force and not necessarily have to be a special person and a special bloodline with a metachlorine level in their blood of 86.235 repeating, that it can be a little more about your character. It can be more about the fact that you can be virtuous, or the fact that maybe you are driven and that can drive the Force to awaken inside of you, that the Force is not just linked to one group. It's not just linked to one thing. It can be for anybody. You just got to be able to have it awake inside of you. And that doesn't necessarily mean that every single person has the capability for it. It's just that more people have the inclusion to do it. That gives us more characters. That gives us more drama. That gives us more tension. That makes for better storytelling. I think it was nice that we ended with the kid who was focused on hope, right? Who grabbed that broom at the end. I thought it was a great way to them have him, again, look up to the stars and look at the possibility of all the other people who are just like him, that there could be someone else out there that he could relate to. I think that's a good message to send to people.
But the prequels showed it wasn't about one family. Like, the main characters were the one family, but the prequels showed there were a ton of Jedi.
Right, but then we killed them all, and then we went to focusing on just the
I understand. I understand.
Yeah, episode 2.
It wasn't just the one family, right? At first.
All right.
So
in the 70s movies, yes, it was. It was all about that. When we get to the episode 1, you're right. It was not.
When I said at first, I meant the prequels.
Okay, I gotcha.
Because they came before the movies in the 70s.
Okay.
Chronologically,
yes.
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So the original series was written about the one family. I understand. Then we had the prequels that showed there were all these Jedi. And now we're going to rebuild around the Force. Not necessarily have to call it Jedi, but
Right.
rebuild around the Force. And it's still going to be a select few.
I don't think so.
not gonna-
I think literally that is called The Force Awakens. I think it's awakening within the universe. Because
I don't think so. I don't think it's possible.
Here's a thing I do want to ask you though. When it comes to
hang on, because I'm not done with this discussion. In this movie, Luke actually describes the Force as being everywhere. It's between everything. You just need to be sensitive enough to feel it. I agree with you that yes, not everybody is going to be able to be a Jedi and be able to sense it, but that's the whole point of this movie. It's not for the select few. If you want it and you're motivated and you have the skill to do it, you could do it. That's
still
all I'm saying.
you're setting filters. That's still a select few.
But it's more than one family.
Oh, I absolutely
It's more
agree
than
with
the
you.
5 people we've been seeing so far.
For me, it was never about one family.
But that's why that moment is so important, and that's why it's so important that Rey comes from nothing and from two drunk junkers. That's what my point is.
Here's a question I had about the tone of the movie. There was a lot of comedy in it. There was a lot of physical bits. My favorite moment, but also a little cringeworthy, was the banter between Poe and Hux in the beginning. I'm holding for General Hux.
That was Christian's favorite part of the movie. Tell him it's about his mother.
It's fantastic. At one point, there was like, okay, I get it, Disney. Like, all right, Disney got the Star Wars. But then the fact that it meant something, like he's stalling for time, I was very quick to forgive it. What do you guys think about the humor in this one?
Well, that's what we got from Poe in The Force Awakens. He's cool under pressure. He's irreverent. He's a smart ass. This was a good continuation for me.
Right. What about like the caretakers and the fact that Rey like destroys like their house, their fishing cart and things like that on the island?
Now, I think the humor is necessary because this movie is pretty dark. and in general. And listen, for everybody in that movie theater, you all knew this was the last time you got to see Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia, and we already said spoilers, right? The fact that Luke technically dies at the end of this movie. I mean, there's some pretty heavy shit in this movie.
Yeah,
you need the comedy to lighten it up. You need a few moments here.
Those little birds that are always
the
screaming.
porgs.
Yeah, whether it be the Chewbacca trying to eat a porg in front of its family or the caretakers, you got to have that. Otherwise, like, you just walk out of the theater depressed. And every Star Wars movie has had humor.
Yes.
Empire had a ton of humor, whether it be from Han or whether it be from C-3PO. There was always that little bit of levity in there, just so you're having fun at the theater, and that's what this did.
I have two moments I need to know your reactions to, and then we can kind of open up to a broader discussion at that point. There is the moment where we finally get this resolution from the cliffhanger from The Force Awakens, where Rey hands Luke the lightsaber, and he just looks at it and then throws it over his shoulder. What was your reaction when that happened?
I chuckled.
Just chuckle, Brian?
I actually... So I watched Force Awakens before I saw it, and then I watched this, and then I watched Force Awakens again, and I'm actually... Like, I know a big sticking point for a lot of people is, well, we never found out how Maz got the Luke's lightsaber, and
care.
They never... A, I don't care.
Yeah.
B, I don't...
No, who cares?
I don't necessarily think it's Luke's lightsaber. I think it's Kylo's.
But what did you think when he threw it over his shoulder?
I think a lot of moments in this movie is Rian Johnson pretty much saying, hey, this is ours. This is our universe. Like, we're going to do what we want with it. Screw your theories. This is what we're doing. I thought it was... I didn't get upset by it. I thought it was fine. I think it's in tandem with the character arc that Luke was on at that point. He has shut himself off from the Force and everything to do with it. So yeah, if you hand me the lightsaber from a time of my life that I'm trying to forget, in fact, a portion of my life that I'm trying to destroy, yeah, I'm going to throw it away like it's nothing.
I'm going to be honest. At first, when it happened, the moment it happened, I was a little mad. But as it progressed and I just got over the initial shock, I thought it was hilarious. But for a split second, I really did. My gut reaction was, oh, come the fuck on. But then, just like you said, Brian, it makes total sense. Like, there's no reason to get mad about that at all. The other moment...
Plus the fact that the lightsaber's destroyed at this point anyway. So who cares?
Well, that brings me to the next moment for it. In typical Star Wars fashion, at some point in the story, someone's got to lose a hand. And there was a moment when they were fighting over the lightsaber in the Red Room after Snoke, that the business end was pointed at Kylo Ren's hand. And part of me was chanting, oh, come on, lose a hand, lose a hand, lose a hand. That fight scene was incredible, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of the movie.
I was going to say, was that everyone's favorite part for it? How do we feel about just the fight scene? We'll get to Snoke in just a moment.
I have two favorite parts, but that is one of them.
What was the other favorite part? Just out of curiosity.
When Admiral Holdo went into hyperspace right into the middle of a freaking starship.
Badass.
That was awesome.
So,
which then followed by an awesome fight between Finn and Phasma. That entire scene.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen the last of Phasma either.
Oh no, Phasma's coming back.
Oh yeah,
definitely need that. So let's talk a little bit then about Snoke, because I gotta be honest, this was the one part where I understand it, and again, this is flipping people on their heads.
Little anticlimactic,
but it was anticlimactic for me.
Oh my gosh,
I thought it ended perfectly.
I know, I'm not holding it against it as a criticism. I wanted a little more. I understand it was the fact that it was the first time that Kyle, actually we'll call him Ben at that point. Ben was hiding his feelings from Snoke. And or
it ended the same way every other Sith Lord ends.
Thank you.
Yep.
With the apprentice
killing
Kylo Ren,
absolutely
rising up and killing the master. So I don't necessarily think this was a Ben Solo move. I thought he saw it as, I can be the master, she can be my apprentice, and then he made that profession to her moments later. So I don't think this was at all anticlimactic. I think it was exactly the way it should happen, and I think it was exactly the way George Lucas would have written it.
I agree that Snoke definitely needed to die. Kylo Ren, I mean, the way it happened, I completely understand and agree with it. I just know I want a little more, but it's not one of those things I'm just like, how dare they kill Snoke? I don't know anything about. Like, no, like, yes, this is fine.
This is something that keeps on coming up, that we didn't explain who Snoke was or where he came from. And the whole point of the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter. You're not going to this movie to watch Snoke. You're going to this movie to follow Kylo Ren and to follow Rey. And the fact of the matter is, when we all went to go see Return of the Jedi, nobody knew anything about Emperor Palpatine, and they didn't explain anything. So we didn't know anything about Palpatine's backstory until the prequels. And this is the same thing. Will we never find out where Snoke came from? Not necessarily. There's plenty of avenues that we can explore, whether it be in Rian Johnson's trilogy or even just in a book or expanded universe thing that you can learn about Snoke's past. But for this movie, it does not matter. There's no reason I need to know where Snoke came from, why he's so powerful, or how he took over the First Order. I am watching this movie for Kylo Ren and for Rey and for Finn, and that's it. And that was a huge turning point for Kylo Ren. It was a huge moment in his character arc.
So there was one moment in the movie that the movie went from, oh, this is good, to, oh yeah, this is great, and this is better than Force Awakens, and that was seeing Yoda and getting puppet Yoda back, and getting rid of that CGI stuff and hearing and seeing Yoda again. I mean, the fanboy in me, I was so ecstatic.
That was pretty cool. Yeah,
it was great to see the puppet. I love that scene just for the fact that, like, okay, yeah, Luke's finally getting back in touch with the Force so he could see Yoda again. And he's still emo boy. He's still emo boy Luke. He's like, I'm going to burn this tree to the ground. And Yoda's like, okay, bet. And just freaking lights it on fire.
Yep.
Like,
I'll do it for you.
That's in the Yoda character. It's in the Yoda Luke relationship. And B, it's followed by this great scene and this great moment of Luke really Yoda saying once again, Luke, you are so focused on the future and the past and what you could have done differently and what's going to go and happen in the future. You're never living in the present. That's your problem. And that's a huge moment for Luke's character too. There was a lot of really great moments in this movie, really spot on character developments in this movie that I highly enjoyed.
Did you notice that in the Millennium Falcon, when I think it is Finn is getting the blanket for Rose, in the drawer was the Jedi text? It is not fully destroyed.
She took him on the...
People did not know that. I want to make sure that people know that even though that was destroyed, it's still there somewhere. So that may be coming back. Here's the final question I have, again, before we go to broader discussion if we need to. I want to know who had the biggest enlightenment or who got the most out of this movie. Because in my opinion, it was Poe. Poe went from being the hothead to not being told the whole plan and realizing that a hero's job sometimes is not to just go in guns blazing. It's not to always be the alpha, the number one. It's about sometimes stepping back and letting things happen and letting other people carry the burden and not putting it all on yourself.
Sometimes you have to run away is really what he learned.
Right, absolutely. And I think he grew because
I don't think that was the message though, Brian. I think CJ highlighted a bit better in that it's not enough to win, you have to lead. And that, but I don't think you can say one person had the biggest takeaway. Like,
no, okay, yeah, that's true. Go ahead, please finish.
I agree. I think.
Go ahead, Brian.
Go, Josh.
So I think when you look at character arc and really who took what away, Poe, Rey, Finn, Kylo Ren were all completely changed throughout the course of it. Like, Kylo Ren being defeated by a hologram, essentially, by a Force hologram.
That was badass.
Was bad, but you don't think he learned from that?
I do.
Right?
I absolutely, I'm not saying that no one learned. I just think
I think each of these new characters learn these fantastic lessons that we'll see play out through at least one more movie, if not more.
I would argue that I agree with you. I don't think you can point to one character. I think the main complaint I hear about this movie is that, there was no story, to which I said, okay, what was the story behind Empire Strikes Back? And nobody really has an answer for me, because let's face it, we all love Empire Strikes Back, but it has a weak story. It's all about the character development. And that's what this movie did. This movie just did a lot of development for every single character, including Luke. I think Luke had one of the biggest character arcs.
I think Luke will be back. I think now Luke
he's going to be back too. But
as Obi-Wan did.
But this is the end of his of his story. This is how that's how
his mortal story. Yeah,
this is the end of Luke's story. He's finally come back around, and he has become one with the Force. He's truly because he never died. He didn't doing that Force projection.
Same as Obi-Wan.
Kill him.
Right.
Same thing as Yoda. He just became one with the Force and had a true understanding of the Force and became one with it. I think Finn had a huge moment when it came to his priorities, because the entire first act of the movie, his one priority is Rey and making sure that Rey's okay. And now he's thinking bigger picture. I think Poe, same thing, is thinking bigger picture. Like, sometimes you need to lose the battle to win the war mentality. Rey obviously had a lot of character development and different things that, she went through as well. So I think that's what this movie was all about. It was all about the character development. With, let's face it, it didn't have a ton of story, but I didn't need that because I was bought in from Force Awakens to the characters.
Right. And I agree. Listen, there are some things I did not like about this movie, as with every movie. But I don't think it's worth time to sit down and nitpick those things, to pick it apart, and to do that, because the good outweighed the bad. And when
so great.
And when you look at other movies that have come out that, again, have problems and that we do nitpick, the reason we do that is because the good is outweighed by the bad, right? And just like we talked about, the characters, we have issues with them. It's not being done the way that we would like. So I don't think tearing this movie apart is worth anyone's effort, to be honest. I think focusing on what was done well, again, outweighing the bad, and the fact that we have another way, there's another story that's still yet to be told for this chapter.
And that's the difference between this movie and some other things, is that we know episode 9 is coming. We know there's a bigger picture, and like, once you see all the pieces put together, it's all going to make more sense.
And it's about
this movie is necessary for some of these characters to do whatever they're going to do in episode 9.
Right. And again, the difference between Star Wars and other movies is that the next chapter is, again, all encompassing everybody rather than solo ventures. Right. So we're not just seeing just Rey's storyline or just, Kylo Ren's. So there's way more room for people to grow. Again, telling the whole story rather than part of the story. So we're not going to pick it apart. So if you're looking for that, it's not going to happen. Final thoughts on Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Anything else you kind of need to talk about a bit?
I thought Leia was going to die in this movie.
Oh, me too.
So watching her sort of force fly through space back to the ship was a little surprising. But I was glad that she makes it through. We'll have to hear the story of how she went, but I enjoyed seeing that. I thought for sure she was done, but all in all, I was thrilled.
It's something that got me, and really, I was very emotional about it. Was when the moment happened, it was like, oh my god, we're doing it this soon? Oh my god, no! But knowing that she was sharing a lot of those scenes with her daughter,
that was cool. Yeah.
Oh my god, it was pulling at my heartstrings. I was actually just like, man, she gets to have this. She gets to be able to say, I got to act with my mom a lot. And it's put in this wonderful film, and you got to come back to that. And you see that relationship a little bit. And it was nice to see.
Very cool.
So yep. I like the way they handled Carrie Fisher a lot. Brian, final thoughts on you?
Final thoughts on me? I think I'm pretty spectacular.
I think you're pretty spectacular.
Brian,
I think I have a lot to offer.
Brian, your final thoughts on Star Wars: Last Jedi?
Oh, Star Wars: Last Jedi. Final thoughts are, like I said, I highly enjoyed it. I mean, as far as Carrie Fisher goes, I'm interested to see. I'm glad that they didn't let the tragedy of her death affect how they were going to portray this story.
Yep.
I'm interested to see how they figure it out for episode 9, and writing her out and everything. But yeah, I thought it's a worthy installment in the saga. I think Mark Hamill was, fantastic. And as always, I think he had a lot of amazing scenes between him and R2 and between him and Yoda. I think it did enough to kind of tug at my nostalgia heartstrings for this saga, but also while setting up something new and giving me things to look forward to that don't necessarily include the characters that I grew up with. I'm okay with this new batch of characters, and I'm interested to see where they go. And I also think
Yes.
I also think DJ is, I mean, we're not going to see the last of DJ. You don't cast Benicio del Toro for 7 minutes of film. Like, he's going to be a bigger role.
Yep.
But I think that was a huge moment, too, when him and Finn are on the ship.
He's sort of the new Lando Calrissian.
Yeah, a little bit. He was the character I bumped on, but I see a higher purpose in him, so I'm not going to rip him apart. I'll see something. Something will come back later. You don't cast him.
Tell me you didn't
like
draw an immediate parallel to Lando?
No.
I didn't draw an immediate parallel to Lando.
No, I didn't either.
Useful in getting what you want, but can't trust him that he won't get what he needs first.
Yeah.
Well,
I see it.
Now that you say it, yeah.
I see it, yeah. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that is our episode today. Now, this is not a one-way street. We need to hear from you. So talk to us on Facebook or Twitter at That Kind of Nerd. Tell us your thoughts about any of the topics that we talked about. But if you have something you want to share about Star Wars, go ahead and let us know. We're also talking about anything good for the end of the year that we missed or something that we didn't talk about. We definitely want to know if there's a story that we need to talk about before 2018 rolls around. So I want to thank you so much for making us your walk around your neighborhood or your drive to work. I am CJ Mellon, joined by Josh Burns and Brian Thornton, and we will see you next week.
If you love comics and sci-fi and technology, television, video games, and fantasy, well, take a listen to our show. I'm sure you'll see there's many points where we can agree. Like that Martha as a plot point was just too absurd, and Apple versus Android is a case to be heard, and that Josh Trank's new Fantastic Four was a turd. Well, welcome to the club, cause you are that kind of nerd.
January 12th. Wow, January 12th. January 12th, we have The Post.
January 12th. The Post. It's got Toast Hanks, Mel Strost, Bob Odenkirk. Do we have to have an order to this? I just picked five randomly.
I did 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
Oh, did you do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
I sure did.
You did 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, well then I gotta do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wait, could I be Brian Thornton for a day?
Do you want to?
I gotta tell you, I diddle myself from sun up to sundown.
It's like being John Malkovich, right? There's just a little room we can go into. We can be Brian for a few hours.
You do not want to be inside my head.